A bombshell accusation has just hit one of America's prominent churches, threatening to unravel decades of trust. It looks like another shepherd leading the flock was a wolf in disguise. But is it truth or a vicious lie? You have to hear this. Before we dive into the heart-pounding details, let's start with what the church itself is saying. On February 3rd, 2026, the board of directors at North Little Rock First Assembly of God Church, better known as First NLR, posted this statement on their website, responding to a lawsuit filed against their longtime lead pastor, Rod Loy, and the church. Here's the full quote. Our lead pastor and church have been accused of inappropriate behavior many years ago by a former employee. The church leadership takes accusations of this nature extremely seriously. Upon initially hearing of such an allegation, the church board launched an external investigation which found nothing to substantiate the claims. We just became aware that a lawsuit was filed by the accuser. Pastor Rod and our church board vehemently deny these claims. We are prepared to defend this accusation, and we ask for your prayers and patience during this difficult time for both the accused and the person making such an allegation. That's a strong denial, folks. But what sparked this firestorm? A vulnerable teen's story of grooming and betrayal that allegedly spanned 2 decades. How did it start? First, a bit of background to set the stage. First NLR is one of the largest assemblies of God churches in Arkansas, a megachurch with a vibrant community. Pastor Rod Loy and his wife Cindy have been in full-time ministry for over 30 years, joining the church in 1991 and taking the lead roles in 2001. On the surface, it's a picture of success and faith. But according to a lawsuit filed on January 26, 2026, in Pulaski County Circuit Court, there's a much darker side. The plaintiff, Suzanne Lander, now living in Georgetown, Texas, claims it all began in 1996. She was 16, fresh from what she calls her first true encounter with God at the church, coming from a traumatic background, including alleged parental C.S.A. and trafficking. Loy, then an executive pastor, allegedly stepped in as a father figure. But was it genuine care or something sinister? The suit says he took her shopping for dresses, watched her model them, attended her basketball games, and invited her to his home for Nintendo sessions. And here's where it turns chilling. In the fall of 1996, while playing video games or watching TV, Loy allegedly began touching her inappropriately, first over clothes, then under. But it didn't stop there. Over the next 2 years, the claims escalate to forced oral sex in his church office and grape at his home and even on church grounds. The suit quotes Loy allegedly saying, God expected her to allow him to grape her, and that followers of Jesus performed sensual acts for their spiritual leaders. As her first pastor, this left her confused, trapped, and unable to question his authority. The question is, how does a teen escape that mental grip? We'll explore that next, but first, did the C.S.A. really continue into adulthood? The lawsuit doesn't end with her teenage years. Lander claims Loy's control extended into her adult life, influencing her marriage to Patrick Lander, who was an associate student pastor at the church, and even her children. It wasn't until 2016 when the family moved to Jonesboro and transferred to a branch church that she began to break free. But the suit goes beyond Loy. It slams First NLR for failing to protect her and others. Allegedly, Loy had a pattern. Surrounding himself with minor female congregants from vulnerable backgrounds, calling them his projects, and ignoring church rules on male-female staff interactions. The complaint describes an authoritarian culture where questioning Loy was forbidden, enabling silence for 20 years. Lander's seeking damages for everything: physical pain, mental anguish, emotional distress, medical bills, lost earnings, and loss of life enjoyment, plus punitive damages and a jury trial. This was timed with Arkansas's temporary extension of the statute of limitations for C.S.A. claims, now under Supreme Court review. Through therapy, she connected the dots to her seizures, complex PTSD, and anxiety. Her lawyer, Boz Chivijian, Billy Graham's grandson and a powerhouse in clergy, abuse cases. He called her step courageous, saying it's time for accountability and truth. But is this isolated? This isn't happening in a vacuum. Just in Little Rock, 3 civil suits hit churches around the same deadline, including a Mormon ward and a Catholic school. Broader still, Assemblies of God has faced other allegations. Facebook users are pointing to lawsuits in Arkansas, Texas, Georgia, and Maryland against Assemblies of God pastors. One commenter said, "If this is true, this will be the 4th church in Arkansas." On Instagram, reactions are raw. One person claimed a similar experience at First NLR as a young one, involving inappropriate touching by another staffer. "This happened to me when I attended this church. OMG, this is so crazy," they wrote. On X, investigative journalist Julie Roys is amplifying the story, urging accountability. The Arkansas AOG district is investigating separately. These cases raise huge questions. Why do power imbalances persist in churches? How can we spot grooming? And what about victims' delayed realizations through therapy? Now, my take? If proven, this exposes a toxic mix of authority and vulnerability that we've seen in too many faith communities. Think Ravi Zacharias or Hillsong scandals. It's heartbreaking, but it's a call for reform, independent oversight, strict protocols, and cultures where voices are heard, not silenced. That said, these are allegations. The church's prior investigation found nothing, and due process matters. Pray for truth, justice, and healing. But what happens next? Will more victims come forward? How will the Supreme Court ruling affect this? The story's just unfolding, and it could change everything. What do you think? Is the church handling this right? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Keep it respectful, as this involves real pain. If this video opened your eyes, smash that like button, share with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe with notifications on for updates on this case and more faith accountability stories. Your support keeps us digging for the truth. Thanks for watching, stay vigilant, and God bless.